Okay, YouTube, it's Tuesday afternoon, May 14th. As you can see, we got another little unexpected project going on here. And I wasn't planning on making a video on this, and I decided it'd be a good idea to narrate a video, at least for my own personal use, before I take all the belts off this lawnmower. Just to do a video showing how the belts are on it and narrate it. That way it's easier for me to go back and see how they go on. But I think I'll also do a video on the whole thing, and I don't have it tore down this far just for belts. As you can see, the engine's missing. This thing had a Tecumseh 15.5 horse. I like Briggs and Tecumsehs actually, but I can't say nothing bad about this engine. Like I said, it was a 15.5 horse. Yeah, let's double check. I should know this since I use this thing, but I've had this lawnmower for 13 years, and it's just been a really tough mower, and it's mowed a lot more than a riding mower this size has been meant to mow. But what happened, I knew it was wore out, but the thing just would not die, so I just wanted to see how long it would actually last. And I thought I killed it last week, but not totally completely. I think the engine's still fixable, but I would like to rebuild it. But right now, because I would like to get back on a power stroke, I don't want to take the time to rebuild it, even though it probably wouldn't take that long. But I may still have to. But for right now, I've got a used 17 horse Tecumseh being shipped to me. We'll see how it runs. Found it on eBay. The guy's got 100% feedback and 0 negative, of course. Can't remember how many positives he has, so I think he'll be good to his word. Supposedly it's a 17 horse that came off a snowblower. He said it was running fine till the starter went bad. It looks like the exact same block, so I'm hoping my starter will fit it. It looks like I said, he had it flipped upside down. He showed several views, and it looks like it's the exact same block and should fit. Same bolt pattern and everything. Same size shaft. He even gave the dimensions on the shaft, output shaft. So we're going to try that first, and I'm going to rebuild that 15.5 horse later, because it was just such a good little engine. The grass grows really heavy here, and like I said, it's cut a lot more than a mower this size probably meant to do for 13 years. I bought it in '99, so actually almost 14. This is going on its 14th summer, I guess. 14th, maybe 15th, I don't know. But I mow all this back here. There used to be a garden back here when I was a kid, so the grass grows really heavy. Of course, all this and around that little strip along the side of the garage behind the trailer to the gate. And the front yard is this little strip on this side of the driveway that you see I mow. I mow probably 6 feet over the property line. The fence is just on the inside of the property line. And I got that to mow. To the telephone poles, all the way down to the road. And I usually mow that other side of the road, on the side of that field. And actually on down that road, I did not mow that. Going down there, that is my cousin's place, and no, somebody else has mowed that. But I mow all that, and before we got the sickle mower going, for those of you who watched all my sickle mower videos, which is my first series of videos, I mowed all of this field up to that gray shed, to that tree, which there's an old well there, all the way down there. That used to be a hay field when I was a kid. Actually, where the house, my mother's house is, that was all hay field that me and my dad used to cut and rake and bale, among several other fields, that one and that one. But the little mower mowed all that, plus this yard. Not counting the 2 years where my mother's broken foot healed. I mowed her yard too, all with this mower, because I was just more comfortable using it. But anyway, on this 15.5 horse Briggs, I thought I blew it up, but I don't think it did. The piston's still moving in and out. I don't feel any, I can't feel anything slopping around when I, meaning with the rod, connecting rod on where it's hooked to the crank. The piston's still moving in and out fine, but what I did find when I pulled this is the overhead valve, of course. When I pulled this head off, the intake side, which is the top one, the rocker arm had come off. I had to remove the studs to get this head off, but there's studs here and a guide plate. Push rods go down in there. But the exhaust side was fine, but the push rod was laying over to the side, and the rocker arm was just laying there loose. And I went in, so I was like, cool. All I did was the lock nut on the rocker arm vibrated loose, but that's not the case. When I tried to put it back together, I stuck the push rod down the lifter and turned the motor over, and the push rod was just barely moving. So I'm thinking I have either an extremely worn cam, and that push rod finally came out of place, or I could have a broken cam. Now, a cam for this thing is about 29 bucks. You can find them on eBay for that price. The used ones, a new one isn't much more really, but you can get rebuild kits and gasket sets for this engine. I found a website. If anybody needs to know, I have to go back and look. I can't remember the exact website. But before I go through all that, like I said, I have a used engine on its way. It's a 17 horse Tecumseh. And yeah, we're going to see how that works out. But I want to go ahead and pressure wash this whole thing off. We'll show you how all the belts go in this thing. And yeah, do a little bit of how-to on this. Alright, first thing I'm going to do is just remove the deck, because that'll make it easier to be everything out of the way. I've already removed the actual blade drive belt off all the pulleys. It's pretty simple. It goes around, you can see what I'm showing here. It goes around these two. You got one pulley on this side and on the other side, of course. It just goes around those two, and it goes around the lower pulley, which goes on the engine. And where did I put that thing? Yeah, it goes on the lower pulley. Right here, and see how bent up that is? I gotta fix that or order a new one. I think I can straighten it. We'll see. But you're thinking, how'd the idiot do that? Well, it was really stubborn to get off. I had a pulley puller, but it was so stubborn, it just, yeah, it would not budge. I kept cranking on the puller, ended up bending it. And after you get to a certain point, you say, well, I got to get it off, so if I tear it up, I tear it up. But it wouldn't come off with just a puller. I had to heat it up. You don't have to get it cherry red or anything so hot that you're going to melt the seals in your engine or anything. Just a little propane torch got it warm enough. But yeah, and that pulley, kind of forgot what I was going to show you here. And that pulley goes on the bottom of the engine, just like that. We'll show how that goes when I get it all together. But there's that. So let's get this deck off. What I'm seeing right now, I'll show you more later, is to get this deck off. The pulley's in the way of the camera here, I think. See those pins right there? I gotta remove those. There's 4 on this side, 4 on the other side, and there's 4 more down here. 2 more. Well, there's 2 on this side, I'm sorry. 2 on this side, 2 on that side. Pretty much 2 on each corner, 4 corners. So let me pop all of them pins out with some needle nose pliers, and those pins should come out, and I'll throw them on a bucket and it should fall off. Alright, before I jerk these belts off, just want to show how they go on, or how they're already on there for my own reference and for anybody who might find this handy to look at. Okay, this of course, as I mentioned earlier, is the actual blade drive belt, and it's pretty simple. It goes above the lower pulley that comes off the motor, and the 2 pulleys for the blades would be about here and here, and it just goes around all that. That's pretty simple. Throw that in there, and here is one of the drive belts. I guess that would be the main drive belt that goes to the actual transmission of this thing, because it goes to the top pulley of the engine. As you can see, it's eat up pretty bad too, and around that pulley. That's pretty darn easy looking to me, and Plus, when I go back and look at the video, it'll be even easier. And then we got this one, which I remember being a bear. I replaced these about, I don't know, about 6 years ago. Maybe longer than that. But we got this belt up in here. It goes around the top of this pulley, around the idler, around the big pulley down here. And, yeah, it's not too easy to get out. But last time I did this, I didn't have the deck completely off, and I didn't have the lawnmower flipped upside down, which it still had the engine full of oil and it was full of gas, and which I've drained the gas, took the battery out and everything. So yeah, let's go over this again. This pulley goes around, or this belt goes around the big pulley on this side of the idler, the right of it, if you're on the bottom of the mower, around the top of this pulley, and back through there. Okay, and for anybody who needs to know, this is a 1999 MTD yard machine with 15.5 horse engine. Alright, we'll get these belts off and I'll probably call it tonight, and hopefully tomorrow when I get home I can pressure wash this thing off. Okay, I'm not just going to do a video saying I took the belts off and put them back on. I want to make sure it shows how to get some of these belts off. There is a little something to it. Now, this belt here, as you can see, it's kind of trapped inside of all that. And the easiest way that I can remember to get these off, I'll tell you if it works or not. I'm not going to do it on film because it's getting late. I want to get these belts off before tomorrow. See that pulley right there? If you can see that snap ring, I'm kind of laying in an awkward position to show you this. Sorry about the camera being all crooked, but there's a snap ring right there. You remove that snap ring, that pulley should come straight up and you can get your belts off. Okay, just want to show you one more thing. I got the snap ring out, and right now when this thing is in park or in a lower gear, these belts are under tension. If you just take your speed control shifter and let it go to the highest gear, as you can see, going all the way up to the highest gear will take all that tension off, and then you can just slide your pulley out. And one thing I forgot to mention, as you can see, you get those belts off. To get to this, you need to remove your shifter plate, which is pretty obvious, but it's pretty easy. 2 screws, one there, and you'll have to unscrew your shifter knob, and this plate will just lift right off. Just wanted to show that. And right now I'm trying to get this belt off one-handed, which is very clumsy, but that should give you an idea of how to get those belts off pretty easy. And it's probably not a bad idea to mark the top of your pulley with a paint marker or something so you know which is top and bottom, just in case you forget. Alright, it's now Wednesday the 15th. Just want to show you we got it pressure washed off and picked up some new belts on the way home. Luckily I found them all at Lowe's. I can't believe that. It's usually one belt here or one belt there. And then the last one that you can't find, you got to go to the special lawnmower place that wants a fortune for it. But one thing I neglected to show you last night, and I didn't really notice it until I went to take it off, was this belt that goes on the rear pulley. In order to get it off, see these 2 bolts right here? They go to the shifter bracket. I don't know if you'll be able to see better through the top or not. Hopefully you can. If you can see down in there or not. Maybe it's hard to, yeah, I can see it on the screen now. But anyway, that shifter bracket, as you can see, traps that belt in there. All you have to do is take them 2 bolts out on the side I showed you and just kind of move that out of the way. And see that spring-loaded clip? If you can see it right there. If you can, try your best not to remove it. It holds your shifter in place on that plate. And I did my mother's lawnmower a couple years ago, which is very similar to this, but it's a 38-inch cut. It has a smaller engine. And you remove that clip, it's a pain to get back on. And this time around I avoided to do it. But all we got left now is to put the deck on it. We got a new deck belt laying right there, and the belts pretty much this, at least this rear belt has a diagram, shows what it is. But yeah, after that, after the deck goes on, all we gotta do is fix our pulley and wait for an engine to come in, and hopefully we'll have a lawnmower back, and we can start working on the power stroke again. Stay tuned before we finish this up. Okay, now it's Sunday, May 19th. As you can see, we've got it mostly together except for the hood and the shifter cover, but I'm leaving that off for a while, and I'll explain why. Let's see, I wanted to do more videoing of this little project. I mostly wanted to do like an old start on this engine because it did come from eBay, and condition was unknown unless you believe everything you read in the description. But the good thing is at this time the guys seem to be pretty honest. We got a good engine, and like I said, I wanted to do an old start, but this engine was on my porch Friday afternoon after work, and it was raining on and off. I hadn't had the deck on yet, so I put the deck on out here in the rain and rode the thing in the garage, and it was just one of those deals. It was just kind of a frustrating job to do while it was in bad weather. And there were 2 broken mounting bolt holes in the bottom of the engine. That one and that one, I had to drill them out, and they're case hardened bolts, broken off and frozen inside of aluminum block. As you know, that can get ugly if you don't drill your hose out right. But luckily we got that figured out. But the engine, it surprised me. It doesn't smoke. When I first started, lots of white smoke, as can be expected from an engine that sets. The seller recommended that I clean the carburetor out because it sat so long. It supposedly came off a snow blower, and they said the starter went bad. And as soon as I looked at the block, I knew that the starter off my engine would work, and it did. My starter's fairly new. And there's a few other issues I got to fix with the mower, but at least I got it back to where it was. Actually, before the engine messed up on me, this pulley down here was rubbing. I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, you can see it now on the screen. It was rubbing, and that's not because I bent the pulley. I did kind of mess it up, as I showed you earlier in this video. I straightened it up the best I could, but I'm still going to order another one because this thing actually it was also doing another thing to me before all this happened. The blades were still kind of turning when you disengaged it, and the reason for that is you can see this little homemade doodad I got going here. It's supposed to be a spring going all the way to a bracket up inside there, which you probably can't see because it's too dark and I can't get the camera in there. I can try. Yeah, you can see that. See what spring hooks. That spring is supposed to stretch from there all the way to there, I believe, according to the diagram. It doesn't really show what it hooks to, but it shows it's going to just about where the shifter is, and that's makes sense. It's got a hook there because without that, this deck flops around loose and it will shift forward. See how my foot's making it do it somewhat, but it was a lot worse. It would make it shift forward and scrape that blade, and it would spark and it would get really noisy. And that improved that situation, but it's still, the blade still don't stop turning when you disengage it. I either need the correct spring, or I may have to go ahead and order that new pulley. And if the guy who I ordered the spring from on eBay comes through, he's got pretty decent feedback. He's got a couple negatives, but the negatives had complaints. It sounded like the buyers were the kind of people who aren't satisfied with anything. So I gave him the benefit of the doubt and I ordered a $6 spring from him. At least I'll only be out like $8 after shipping if he doesn't send it or screws up. He also has this pulley listed for $19, so I'm thinking that the way I messed up that pulley, it's kind of gripping that too tight and keeping that belt spinning. And also, I don't know how well you can see it. I could disengage lower the deck rather. If you can see this bracket right here, those have like brake material on them, and when you pull it up, when you disengage your blades, what I'm trying to say, this deck comes up and you can see where this pulley's been rubbing, and it's like that works as a brake they're not really, they're touching it, but they're not rubbing it tight enough. I may need to replace those two. They're wore. So that's something else I may need to order. I'm going to order everything one at a time until I get it. But for right now, at least it's back to the condition it was, and I can mow with it. And I just like this old mower. It's like an old shoe that fits really well. Everything just seems to be perfect for the type of mowing I do. I mow my mother's ditch over there, which a lot of people driving down the road look at me like I'm crazy when I do it. But yeah, it's got good tires that grip pretty well. The other type you see on these Troy belts and other type mowers are real hard. These are a good soft tire. It takes more for this one to spin than those other types. But yeah, this is a 17 horse. It's also an industrial commercial. I don't know if that makes it any better than your standard mower engine like I had or not, but I do know this one's rated at 17, mine was 15 and a half. And the only issues I got going with the motor right now, I need to either clean out the carburetor or put my old one on it. Like I said, the seller recommended I cleaned it out. And when you get it wide open, it doesn't want to run unless you got it about halfway choked, like it's not getting fuel. But when you halfway choke it, it mows with plenty of power, just as good as the old engine was. So what I did before I even swapped carburetors, I put some seafoam in the gas. I've used that on a generator that the carburetor is really gunked up on, and it worked really well. I'm just going to run it until it runs out of this whole tank of gas. I put like half a can of seafoam in it, a little bit less than half. And if that doesn't free it up by then, we'll try swapping carburetors, and then I'll rebuild this one later, get it working right. And then later on we will do a rebuild on that 15 and a half horse when there's And we got to fix that blade issue, though. That's kind of dangerous. Actually, I don't know if it showed up in video, but my foot got awful close to that when I reached for that choke. So yeah, that's a dangerous thing, and it's not a wise thing to do to leave it that way. But as soon as my first part comes in, we'll see if that fixes it. If not, we'll try the pulley. If not, we'll try the new brakes, meaning the pulley brakes. But yeah, we'll fix it because that's dangerous even for me. So that's all this video. Just want to show you how my engine ran. Like I said, I would have loved to have done an old start on this engine. It was a little stubborn at first, so it would have made a good old start video. But like I said, the weather was terrible. It was raining, and I was up late, tired, so we didn't video it. But anyway, that's it for this little project. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And hopefully the next videos will be back on the truck. And as you can see, with all the stuff I've been doing with the Trino and this lawnmower, this place is a mess. Look at all the junk. I started using my bed as a workbench, but sometimes when you're in the middle of a big project, everything else just falls apart. That's it. Thanks for watching.